Greetings and welcome to the Wild Sunset Kule. In our series of lectures on Peter Barry's book Beginning Theory, today we are going to discuss about poststructuralism and deconstruction. And before starting today's lecture, I want all of you to download the book from the given link, because while listening to the lecture you have to read those 2 or 3 pages that I am going to mention. Let's begin. Poststructuralism is a form of rebellion against structuralism. So it says that poststructuralism is against structuralism. So what is structuralism? As you have known in our previous video of this series, we have discussed that structuralism believes that there is no, number one, relation between the word and the meaning of the word, and number two, there is no fixed structure. That means, and post-structuralists are pointing this belief of structuralists in as the loophole in their own theory of post-structuralism. So post-structuralists are saying that structuralists are not following the implication of the views about language on which their intellectual system is based. The post-structuralists maintain the consequence of the structuralist belief that language shapes the world. Post-structuralists also believe that it is true that language shapes our reality, or language reflects or record our reality, but the consequence or the result of this belief are that when we are saying that language is shaping our reality, post-structuralists are saying that when we are saying that language is shaping our reality, then we are entering a universe of uncertainty. Since we can have no access to any fixed landmark or any fixed meaning, because there are different kind of language, and one thing is for example, if there is the word mango, the mango is different in the language Hindi. The mango is different, the word mango is different in the language France. The mango is called different in Italy or in Germany. So there are many kind of language, so there is no certain or fixed meaning, because when the language is changing, the name the word name is also changing, so there is no fixed landmark, and we do not have certain standard through which we can measure anything. So there is no fixed authority from which we can define our world when we are saying that language shaping our world. So the background is this: with the 20th century, the First World War came, so people beliefs has been shaken. Number two, many scientific discoveries has been happened, and the scientific discoveries are in war with themselves, because one thing defies something and the other thing opposes it. Number three, the theory of relativity comes. So all these social political reasons are also responsible to the rise of post-structuralism. Post-structuralism says that fixed intellectual references are permanently removed by structuralist belief about language. So structuralist own belief about language is removing the fixed intellectual reference. Thus, the meaning about language becomes a free floating device or artifice, and because of this, the meaning of a certain language becomes very free, because there is no fixed meaning. So the language is becoming free, because when I am saying that your cheeks are red like apple, so it is up to me what I am trying to mean. Because when I am saying that your cheeks are red like apple, I am saying that your cheeks are beautiful, but someone can also take it as a more uh, mm, as a more negative connotation, or usually it means in a positive situation or in a beautiful way, but anyone can, it is up to the reader who will take it, or it is up to you, or it is up to the listener who I am giving the compliment, that how he or she will take it. So this idea is creating a gravity free universe where there is no fixed meaning or fixed structure, and where the interpretation of a text completely depends upon the reader's culture and society as much as it depends upon on the author's culture and society. And post-structuralists call this a decentered universe where all the concepts which previously defined center and the margins now are deconstructed. So there is underlying sense that we are not really in control of the language or the language system. So you have to remember two or three things. Number one, that post-structuralists believe that the interpretation of the text completely depends upon the reader. It is not in the author's hand, because for post-structuralism, the author is dead after publishing their text, because when the reader is reading the text of the author is no more present with the reader. The author is present only in his or her writing or of the book. So it is up to me or up to you, the reader, who will define the text. So post-structuralists believe the reader interpretation is far more greater than author's intention. Number two, there is no fixed meaning or structure of language. And number three, there is no fixed truth and knowledge. So and there is no certainty. So the universe is becoming decentered. And while discussing, you will feel that post-structuralism is more of a philosophical concept, right? So post-structuralism is equal to skepticism, because post-structuralism always counterattack the scientific approach of structuralism, because post-structuralism is always in disbelief. So post-structuralism emerges in France in the late 1960s, and the two prominent figures of post-structuralism are Jacques Derrida and Ronald Barthes. Famous book of Jacques Derrida on post-structuralism, Jacques Derrida, is of grammatology, and Ronald Barthes the essay The Death of the Author. So before starting this, if you have downloaded the book from the given link, I will request you to read page 62, where you will understand that how the meaning of the word or how post-structuralism is decentering the universe, or how the loophole of structuralism has decentered the universe, because reality is becoming textual, because post-structuralists believe that there is nothing outside of the text, and we will discuss this later. Ronald Barthes' essay The Death of the Author announces that text is free by its nature of all such restraints. In the absence of the author, the text becomes the product of reader. So when the author is absent, that means when the reader is reading the text, it is completely up to the reader that what he or she will understand by the text. So the death of the author gives birth of the reader, and here comes that there is nothing outside the text, or there is no outside text. Now, Jacques Derrida's of Grammatology, translated by Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, is famous for the quotation, "There is nothing outside the text." So, the true quotation is the true translation of Derrida's book is "There is no outside text." But you have to remember that no outside text is not actually a word. But to understand it, because the horse texte, the word that Derrida himself has used, is a technical term in traditional book production in France, which collectively designates all those parts of a book that are not contained in the main sequence of page numbers. And for example, the numerics or the page left blank. But Spivak has translated it that there is nothing outside the text. So it justifies a kind of extreme textualism. The reality is linguistic, so that there can be no meaningful talk of a real world which exists outside language. So Derrida is trying to tell that you cannot exist without language. So when we are expressing with language, because it is impossible to express ourselves with any kind of sign. So language is kind of a sign, right? And you have to depend on the sign to express yourself. So Derrida is saying that language replaces our stands in for reality, because if there is no language or sign to express ourselves, how you will describe the scenario in front of you, or now if you are reading this lecture while sitting in your bed, or or whatever places you are, the thing in front of you, you cannot define. For example, the your pen, your book, the tree outside your window, or the people in front of you. So to define them, you have to take the help of language. So you cannot get out of the structure of language. So though post-structuralism is saying that there is no fixed structure of meaning, but there is always a structure of language, a linguistic system that you are part of, and you have to always use that. But Derrida is questioning the standing in, that Derrida is saying the language replaces or stands in for reality. So language is approximately equal with reality, because the person who is writing is part of a language system, right? Like I am telling you this essay and I am telling it in English language, so I am becoming a part of the language system, and I cannot make you understand this essay without language English. For example, if you are an English person, I cannot make you understand this essay in except German language, if you are a German person from German. So and that means you have to knowledge of the language that I am speaking. So you have to be part of certain language system so that you can understand any kind of talk. So Derrida is questioning the standing in, because the person who is writing is part of a language system which has its own history, philosophy. So we can argue that we are not expressing ourselves, but we are expressing actually some aspects of language. Then reading and interpretation are not just reproducing what the writer thinks and expresses in the text, because of this, reading and interpretations are not only so when the author publishes a book and a reader is reading the book, then the interpretation of the reader is not only what the writer thinks. That means if I am reading a text and what I have understand does not actually mean that the writer has tried to mean that, because sometimes the reader's own cultural background, social background, what kind of book the reader reads is depend on the reader's own understanding. So interpretation of the book depends on reader's understanding, not only about author's understanding. So the reading and interpretation are not just the product of what writer thinks and expresses in the text, because the reader is also thinking or expressing in his or her own understanding or language system. So this is actually creating this, that means this is reconstructing a text alongside so a non-textual reality. So this is while deconstructing, we are actually reconstructing a reality that is not present in the text. So when I am trying to make you understand, or when I am trying to tell you that this text is that Tagore has meant that this is that, and so we are telling creating a different textual, because what the author has written is about 200, 300, 500 words, but when I am explaining it to you, it is becoming to 20,000, 50,000 of words, because these words are not present in the text itself. I have to tell these words to make you understand. So this is actually creating a non-textual reality. So another kind of text is creating alongside the text something which is not in the text, but though it is not in the text, but it is not also outside of the text, because Derrida says that it is impossible when you are reading a text, though you are part of a language system, you are still thinking based on the text or on the basis of the lines that the author has used. So in a way it is part of the text, so you cannot or you can never, according to Derrida, think out, it is not thinking outside of the text, but it is creating another text alongside the text the author is presenting. So your thinking is depending also on the author's author's text. So all these interpretations are part of the text. So reality is textual. Now please read page 62 again along with page 66 and 7, and there we have given Derrida's own comment. Okay. So post-structuralist reading is intensive reading. So post-structuralists read between the lines, and here comes the idea of deconstruction, because when post-structuralists are trying to make you understand a text, they are not only skipping, they are actually telling you to read all the lines of the text, and in this way the reading becomes very intensive. So you and post-structuralist is also telling us to follow the idea of deconstruction. So now let's begin with the idea of deconstruction. So before starting deconstruction, you have to keep in mind that post-structuralists are actually making operation with the text, are not only reading the text, but they are also trying to found that what is unconscious in the text, or what the author is not saying, because the thing that the author is not saying is also becoming part of the text. So for post-structuralist critique, deconstruction is reading the text against itself. So when you are deconstructing a text, you are reading the text against itself. Deconstruction uncovers the repressed unconscious within the text. So the thing that is not being mentioned in the author is also part of the text. So for you as a reader, as a critic, you have to find out the repressed unconscious in the text. According to Barbara Johnson, deconstruction is a disciplined identification and dismantling of the sources of textual power. So Barbara Johnson is saying that deconstruction is not a simple dismantle undisciplined operation. You have to follow certain standard in a disciplined way to understand a text better. It is in fact the closer meaning of the word deconstruction is analysis, according to Johnson. The deconstructionist aims to show that text is at war with itself. So deconstructionist, the thing that they keep in mind that the text is always against itself. So it seeks, so what the deconstructionists try to find in a text, while analyzing a text, they keep in mind these things. Number one, contradiction or paradoxes in place of parallel or balances. So the structuralists try to find parallel and balances in the text, reflections in the text, the symmetry, the contrast or patterns in the text, while the post-constructionalist or the deconstructionist try to find the opposite. They try to find contradiction, paradoxes, conflicts, absences, aporia, and linguistic quirks or language deficiency. Now, aporia, before starting, you have to understand that aporia is a textual knot, right? So though post-structuralists believe that that there is no fixed meaning, but they always think that there is something that is holding a text, and that thing or not is aporia. Now Peter Barry, the book of this writer, has described 3 stages of deconstruction. Number 1 is verbal, number 2 is textual, and number 3 is linguistic. So in the verbal portion, they try to find Peter Barry is saying that while deconstructing, when we are following the first stage is verbal stage, where we are trying to find the contradiction or the paradoxes in the text, and in the book Barry has given example of the poem, Dylan Thurman's poem A Refusal to Mourn the Dead. Here, while analyzing the text, Peter Barry is telling that you have to find that what are the contradictions in the text, or what are the paradoxes that is being used in the text. So sometimes when we say that it is impossible to tell you, but still we tell, so it is a kind of opposite thing we are telling. So similarly, then we have to find the shifts or breaks or absences. So what is the thing that is the poet is mean to us but does not say directly, we have to find it. And number 3, we have to find the implicit or explicit reference, or the inadequacy of language. And now deconstruction produces disunity to show that what looks like unity and coherence actually contains contradiction and conflicts which the text cannot stabilize. So deconstruction's aim is to find the disunity among the text to analyze the text. After deconstruction, we will see that the text becomes an angst-ridden, means filled with anxiety, fissured enactments of linguistic and full of uncertainty. So when you analyze the text after deconstruction, you will see that the difference. For example, if you analyze the Wasteland or Alice in Wonderland book with the two theory, structuralism and deconstruction, and post-structuralism, you will see that there is a difference. That when we will differ a text, analyze a text while reading in mind the structuralist theory, we will see that the text you are trying to find the parallel, the meaning, the connection. But when you are analyzing the same text with post-structuralism, the text becomes a very dismantled and a scattered type of text. But there is a knot or aporia which you cannot overcome. So deconstructionists believe that there is a knot in the text which resists this entanglement, whereas Barthes says that everything must be entangled. So though Ronald Barthes is saying that everything in the text must be scattered, it is true, but there is also something in the text which is called aporia, which is holding the text together, and if you are trying to overcome it, it becomes self-contradictory. So identifying patterns and symmetries in the structuralist manner discovers a unified text. So when you are uh, uh, analyzing a text while using structuralism, the text becomes unhappy with itself, the text's content. But when you are reading the text against itself, or when you are inversing the method, the text becomes in war with itself, because it gives a sense of disunity. In this way, post-structuralism becomes more of an attitude of mind than a practical method of criticism. So this is where post-structuralism differs from structuralism, because structuralism is more of a scientific approach, and whereas post-structuralism is more of a philosophical approach. So the thing that we have to keep in mind that post-structuralism is, number 1, a rebellion against structuralism. Number 1, post-structuralism is always in disbelief, that is, it is equal to skepticism. Number 3, post-structuralist reading is intensive reading, because you always have to look for every detail, and you have to analyze every word, and you have to try to read all the thing that is not even in the lines. And number 4, post-structuralism is more of a philosophical approach, and it is more of an attitude of mind than a practical method of criticism. So that is it for today's video, guys. I have tried to summarize, and if you have understand this video, please make sure to like, share and subscribe, and follow the playlist for better understanding.